Hey everyone, Blake Lovell, Southeastern 14, back here, and what do you know? Talking about an Arkansas basketball transfer. Stunned, a stunning turn of events that I am talking about Eric Musselman landing another transfer in the college basketball transfer portal. Stunning. I really was not expecting Arkansas to continue to land transfers. But in all seriousness, I'm not stunned at all because Arkansas has done it again. The must bus apparently it just does not slow down for gas. This thing does not operate on gas because it just keeps rolling right along. Ellis heading from Louisville to Arkansas, the latest edition. And we're going to play a trivia contest here in a second. I'm going to try to name all the Arkansas basketball transfers off the top of my head without looking. We'll see if I can do it. But let's talk about Ellis first, because this is another guy that they add to the mix from Louisville. And if you're a college basketball fan, you know where Louisville was at last season. A truly historically bad season for the Cardinals, and there were not many bright spots. One of the few bright spots was Ellis, and he averaged 17.7 points per game, 4.4 assists per game, played 36 minutes per game. I mean, when he was not on the floor, which was rare, they were not going to do much. And that was just the nature of where the Cardinals were at. And if you watched him play, which you're an Arkansas fan, I know you probably watched at least one game because these two teams met in Maui back in November. As remember, Arkansas won that game by 26. And that was also a very clear sign of what was to come for Louisville, given their season and their path at that point. Of course, they'd already lost, a couple games before that to Bellarmine, Wright State, Appalachian State. They lost all those games by 1 point. I remember us talking about that in the preview video we did. Ellis did not have his best game against Arkansas on that one, but as I said, I think something you have to keep in mind with him, if you look at the percentages and the efficiency numbers, I think those are going to be up for debate because when you consider how much time, how much was this guy relied upon for this team to have any success whatsoever? And as we said, let's be honest, it's not like they had a lot. They won 4 games as an ACC team. We don't see that very often, especially we don't see that at Louisville. You kind of have to take those with a grain of salt, right? Like you can't put everything into the efficiency numbers for Ellis because he had to do everything for this team. And I think that's always going to put you in a position, as we saw, even in a game like they had against Arkansas earlier in the year. There's only so much you can do, especially when you're going up against good defensive teams. And Arkansas was one of those teams like that. I think he had 7 turnovers in that game. But if you set that aside, understanding the situation, because context is important here, you've got another playmaking guard. When he has the ball in his hands, he can make plays. Can certainly have the ball in his hands, can play off the ball. He's just a playmaker. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Like you've got a guy who can clearly make plays. Now, is his is his usage rate going to be as high at Arkansas as it was at Louisville? No, he's probably not going to be that relied upon to do everything. But what Arkansas has done here, and you guys you've heard me talk about this. This has been the theme in the videos we've talked about these transfers. They continue to add options when it comes to the guard position. It is a completely, you're potentially looking at a completely new backcourt, right? But when you think about the guys they've already brought in, and here's where we can start this trivia contest. I'm going to try to remember all these guys off the top of my head. I know they've added Keon Minifield. I know they've added Tremont Mark. I know they've added Khalif Battle. There's somebody that Davenport's not okay. So he's not in that category, but I think those are the 4 to this point. Jeremiah Davenport. But when you think about the options they've added in terms of guys with the ball in their hands and having different guys who can be playmakers, I think that is always, you can never have too many of those, right? Like you can never have too many guys who can go out and make plays for you. And that's kind of been a theme, I think, of, certainly you look at just the theme of the transfer portal here for Arkansas. They've got guys who have proven that in some of those clutch moments, they can go out and make big plays. And I think that's invaluable to have for a team that has the kind of aspirations that Arkansas is going to have next season. And they become a team that every season they expect to compete, either for a championship or to make a run in the NCAA tournament. We know the regular season didn't turn out the way they wanted last year. 10th seed in the SEC tournament, still make it to the Sweet 16, knock off Kansas. Third straight second weekend appearance in the NCAA tournament. But I think that's it. It's just they now have added so many different options that it just makes you intrigued as to what the possibilities are going to be with this team. And Again, when you talk about Ellis, I mean, I think he made 59 threes last year, which again, I know it's not really a ton, but you are adding someone who's at least proven he can make some of those shots. Maybe the efficiency not as high. I've got to look up his 3-point numbers. Yeah, so I mean, shot 32% last year from three, shot 36 the year before. But as I said, I think some of that has to be put in the context of, I mean, every team is game planning for you when you're in the role that he was in for Louisville. And so I think you have to keep that in mind. That pressure's not going to be on him as much now going into Arkansas. It's completely flipping the dynamic a little bit. He's got so many different guys that can do other things to where, he's not going to have to do everything. And I think that opens up a lot for a guy that's very talented. And again, just the playmaking ability, I think that has to be sort of at top of mind here, just because Arkansas's got a lot of those with the roster heading in the next season, seemingly. And, as we said, that's not even, I mean, you're bringing in the freshmen, you're bringing back Brazil, you're bringing in all the guys we've already talked about, still trying to see exactly what everything else is going to look like. But yeah, I mean, it's just this is just another example, and I say it once again. I'll just keep repeating it. You can take that clip and just put it in every video I have about Arkansas. But this is why Eric Musselman has had the success he's had, is because he's able to go out and really establish that relationship with these guys, and really just continue to kind of sell everyone on what Arkansas can be. And as we said, there can be bumps along the way. We saw that last season. We saw that the year before. Like, we've seen it throughout, kind of, in some of these seasons, but they always seem to find the right way forward to put them in a position to have NCAA tournament success. And my goodness, think about Ellis. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's a former, I think he's a two-time JUCO All-American, was a stud at the JUCO level. And he goes to Louisville thinking, all right, like, maybe we've got something here. Maybe this is kind of, playing in the ACC. Let's go out, find some success. Well, what happens, right? I mean, his first season, they go 13-19. Chris Mack's no longer there as the head coach. Kenny Payne comes in. They go 4-28 last year. Well, now he comes over and joins an Arkansas team that has done nothing but have success in the NCAA tournament the past 3 seasons. And so that's something else too. You talk about I think just giving a guy kind of a chance to restart here, and knowing it's not just a guy, though. It's a guy who's proven he can be the guy on a very bad team, but that should not lower, the observation of how talented he is. Like, just because you were the guy on a bad team doesn't mean you can't be just as good on a team that is good, if that makes sense. So I'm really excited about this one. As I said, just someone who watches a lot of college basketball, you guys know, I'm sure too. It was hard to watch that Louisville team and to sort of see the situation that he kind of found himself in, last season, and that entire team. But yeah, now he gets a chance to restart, go to Arkansas, and really try to make the most of, the last part of his college career. And yeah, as I said, add him to the mix with Battle, add him to the mix with Mark, Menifee, Davenport, guys that got coming in, Blocker, Fall, Brazil's coming back, on and on and on. Yeah, I mean, this is another significant addition, I think, for the Hogs. And it's just going to be exciting, as it is every season, to see how the dynamic comes together, how the chemistry comes together between all these guys, because that's something else too. A lot of these guys are proven guys who are used to, at times, being the guy. How do you adjust to that? I have to believe in Ellis's case, I have to feel it's going to be a little bit of a relief to not have to be the guy to the point that he had to be last season for Louisville. But a lot of other talented players alongside of him, and this roster put together by none other than the transfer king, perhaps himself, and Eric Musselman. And he's done it again here with the addition of Ellis. So there you go. More thoughts on the Hogs and the Must Bus rolling right along in the transfer portal. I have to assume they're going to add at least 15 more in the transfer portal for the end of the offseason. I'm just kidding. They can't legally do that. But you never know. So because you never know, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because we'll have it all covered here at Southeastern 14. Lots of thoughts on the transfer portal and college basketball. Of course, you've seen all of our SEC football and basketball stuff. Arkansas baseball doing very well, as we know. So be sure to check all that Chris has got going up. Just a ton of stuff there. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. We appreciate you guys as always. And we'll talk to you again here soon at Southeastern.